Hi, today I bring you the part two of the middle class crisis. Last time we sought to establish how the middle class was grown and what are some of the challenges that they experience, and we're going to take the journey a little further now. We shared how when you want to form a middle class, you use policy and opportunity to create the middle class, and then the wealth, you direct that wealth by using incentives so that it flows into things that are productive, things that improve the lives of the middle class and grow the economy as well. We then shared about the crushing of the middle class with taxes, and we examined the level of taxation which has been visited on the middle class over the years and its possible impact on their lives. And when we add all of these things together, both the direct and indirect methods of taxation, this is what comes to the middle class from the government. This is what is taken from their paycheck. It is a whopping $10,400 per annum, in addition to the taxes that we normally pay. This is an enormous sum coming from out of middle class families across this nation. And if they have tuition fees to pay, and if they have to pay professional fees or licenses, then that number can jump to as high as $15,400. What do the middle class families do with that money normally? They would use that money to be able to take care of their assets, get their health care, look after the elderly, do their impulse spending, which benefits our vendors tremendously. And as long as they're spending that money in the economy is able to grow. But the moment you remove that, people like the carpenters can't get work, the car dealerships, the masons, new jobs for school leavers are simply not there. The vendors can't feed their families because middle class people are holding back their spending. When they're unable to take care of the health of all family members, you're going to get abandonment. You're going to have people avoiding care and only come into accident and emergency as an acute episode. And every time government has to hospitalize a person, it costs them $6,000. So this snowballing impact creates greater and greater pressures across the economy. On a monthly basis, their income simply is not making it to the end of the month. So they fall behind in things like their mortgage payments or paying the NIS for their home help, their car insurance. Maybe they have to put down one of the cars. They're grazing down their savings to be able to respond to emergency situations. A tire is blown or the car needs to be fixed or a child needs something. And it's also reflecting itself in the change in their diets. And all of this adds to the stress which middle class families are feeling. And that stress is tremendous. This then creates a further stress across the economy as their income shrinks because their spending slows. Businesses then respond by laying off and closing, and unemployment rises. Because unemployment rises, another round of spending gets slower. So more businesses then lay off. Now, in that second round of layoffs, middle class people will start to lose their jobs as companies may close a department or merge two functions or reduce a department. And so that pressure continues. Government revenue continues to shrink, and we've seen the evidence of this year upon year across different budgets, that despite pressing on the taxes and taking more and more from us, that immediately it shrinks government's revenue. And so our social services suffer because government can't afford it, because they've used the wrong policy, causing citizens to suffer. A double whammy is found by the small business owners because not only are they experiencing government taking more and more out of their income is shrinking because they have less consumers, and their costs are rising because taxes raise the cost of doing business and raises the cost of the price to the consumer. And so we're seeing heart attacks, we're seeing increased strokes, etc., and increased stresses across the community. is the impact on the macro economy now of all of these losses. It means lots of capital that was invested and borrowed over the years and that had grown now will be lost to the Barbadian economy as people's assets are taken back up, their equipment, their houses, their property. Fewer businesses then are available to the economy to catch international growth. If you had 20,000 businesses before the crisis, each generating $100,000, and through the crisis, you are now down to 15,000 or 12,000 businesses who are earning less, then even when growth begins to turn over, you still cannot reach back to where you were because you have fewer businesses carrying your growth. The job losses then begin to tear at the social fabric, endangering family security, resulting in neglect and abuse of the elderly, increased family tensions, and we've seen the reports day after day, week after week of domestic violence and child abuse and crime across the nation. What is the attitude of the government officials to this condition, this stagnant condition? The Daily Observer reported an interview with the central bank governor last month, which, when the IMF said that Barbados is the only Caribbean economy to remain in recession, they are insisting that really, in truth and in fact, we're holding our own. And say it's not an indictment on the island that everybody else has grown and we have not. One of the greatest indictments that they need to step forward and begin to explain to us is this little piece of information here about what has happened to the foreign exchange reserves, which actually fell by $447 million since last December, leaving the Barbadian economy with only 13 weeks of foreign reserve cover. Now understand, the minimum amount of foreign reserve cover that it is safe to have is 13 weeks. That's the minimum. The question we have to answer is why $447 million in foreign exchange reserve cover fell at a time when two significant things happened in this year. Tourism numbers were up. They reported and bragged that the average growth in arrivals across all markets evened itself out at 12%, contributing to growth in earnings of 6%. That means that tourism numbers were up and therefore foreign exchange earnings would have been up. At the same time, oil prices are down. That the price of a barrel of oil moved from $100 down to under $50. This means that the Barbadian economy saved $400 million in foreign exchange. That means that foreign reserves are up, should be up. Why is it that it has fallen $447 million? And somebody has to explain this to us. That report, what does the central bank governor now say? Oh, large amounts of foreign reserves are unnecessary. We have enough at the level of minimum cover. This after claiming that the reason why the government pursued austerity measures was because they wanted to protect the foreign reserves. We were told this year in, year out by the Minister of Finance. The central bank governor spent thousands and thousands of dollars to put on a series on television to explain the foreign reserves and the importance of the foreign reserves and how we must protect it at all costs. And this is why Barbadians must bear the pain. This is what we were told. So let's take a look at the figures to see now whether this was a reasonable thing to tell us or not, when you now say that 13 weeks of cover are quite enough. More than that is unnecessary. This is the Economic Review, Budget Review 2015, looking at the foreign exchange reserves and cover from 2006 to 2014. That Barbados had between 16 weeks of cover all the way up to 21 weeks of cover for the majority of this period. It did not go under. And what is it that they are now saying to us? During this period when they had sufficient foreign reserve cover, they said they could not do a stimulus to the economy. But if you look at these figures, with 1,400 million in foreign reserve cover, we could have done a $300 million stimulus for the economy to be able to stabilize the retail sector, to be able to put money into offshore and put money into tourism. And that would have buttressed the economy against the international buffeting, and it would have preserved our small businesses. It would have made it unnecessary for government to have to put excess taxation on the economy that was being internationally buffeted. And therefore, the middle class would not have had to go through those series of losses of $15,400 per annum, jeopardizing their financial security, jeopardizing the well-being of our working class families who are smelling hell every day, looking for how they can put food on the table, how they're going to pay a light bill, how they're going to pay the water bill, and how they're going to send their children to school. This level of mismanagement is unacceptable, and therefore it is critical that this government be held to account for this damage that they have done to the lives of Barbadian people, only to come back to us now to say that it wasn't necessary to have high foreign. Did they put at risk all of these things that are so important to the Barbadian well-being? And even though in another couple of years, and they will come, they will return that money to you, the damage would have been done and you cannot recover. When a man at 50 loses his job, how easy is it for him to find another job? When you've lost a business and you owe the bank and you've lost your property, who is going to lend you money again to start another business? When a child has lost the opportunity to go to BCC, to go to university, how easy is it for them to recover from that denial of that privilege when maybe they've gone on with their lives, they've started a family, they've taken a lower paying job? It makes it that much harder for them to get out. This quality of governance is something that Barbadians did not deserve. And I'm going to let Plato have the last word. I got people